from Applebee's at Fordham Plaza. It's Monday Night Quarterback, the third episode of the season as we take a look at Fordham football's last game. A look ahead to their next game, which will be against Lafayette on Saturday. Drew Casey and Corey Miller here with you, and we're going to start things off running fourth-year head coach Joe Moorhead. And Coach, thanks for stopping by at Applebee's, coming over from Fordham, and being back with us here this evening.
Always great to be back, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Now, Coach, you look at this game. We talked about earlier in the week how there was no maybe external motivation, obvious motivation. You answered that question by saying that it's a game where we have to compete against our standard. You guys win this one comfortably. How would you assess it in relation to competing against your standard?
I think it was a great job by our kids, and particularly with our preparation during the week. It wasn't. We had great energy, we had great urgency, we had great precision, and we came out and we're really able to put a complete game together in all three phases. Like you said, without any sort of external cachet, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right word for the game. And we came out, competed one at a time at a championship standard, and we're able to beat a very solid Monmouth team.
Coach, high-scoring ball game. Kevin Anderson gets his second Offensive Patriot League Player of the Week award today. How good has he been this year, and how happy with the offense in that big win?
Ever since the Villanova game, I think we performed pretty well against Army. Certainly not up to our standard against Villanova. And prior to the Columbia game, we talked about getting back to playing Fordham offense, being aggressive, dictating the tempo of the game. Getting back to what we do well. And I think we've made small gains since then. And particularly Kevin, and he's done a very good job. Thus far this season, creating explosive plays in the run game and the pass game while minimizing his turnovers. And, we don't want a game manager in this offense. We want a guy who's going to be able to affect the game in a positive manner with what he does. And Kevin has certainly done that.
Coach, you talk about getting back to that Fordham offense. Let's get back to that Fordham offense after that Villanova game where you score 54 points, 550-plus yards in the game. It sounds pretty good of an offense. What allowed it to be so successful on Saturday?
Like always, I think it starts with our tempo, and I think we try to play fast. We haven't gotten as many plays, actually, per game as we have in the past, but I think we've been scoring in shorter amounts of time and less plays, which has affected our time of possession, but we really don't worry about time of possession. I think it all starts from our ability to run the ball successfully. And, with our offensive line and obviously Chase, Kendall, and then Kevin, when you can run the ball successfully, it forces defense to commit numbers to the box. Or pressure you to try to take the run away, and that creates some single matchups or advantageous coverages on the perimeter. And when people are doing things to stop the run, it opens it up for our skill guys in the air, and we've been able to take advantage of those things.
Yeah, you talk about, Coach, the running success of Chase Edmonds. Let's take a listen to his only rushing touchdown from the afternoon on Saturday.
Give to Chase Edmonds, running right back up the middle. Cuts it back right side, has some running room, crosses midfield. Now with a burst of speed through the 40. He could go here. He's going to go. He's past the 15, and he's in for the score on the right side pylon. Chase Edmonds, 56 yards for the score.
So, Coach, you talk about Chase being such a key to your offensive success early on in that game before that big-time run of almost 60 yards with that extra burst of speed across midfield. He seemed to be bottled up a little bit, only getting 2-3 yards a carry. But then again, Kevin Anderson had a great day. So would you say that the reason he was bottled up, that allowed the offense on the pass game to, really exploit the defense from Monmouth?
Yeah, I think that's, generally what occurs. You keep hammering away, and the rock may not break on the first 5 or 10 swings, but eventually you hit it enough times, it's going to split. And, they were in a defense up front that we hadn't seen. We made an adjustment and got a play called that, got Chase turned loose, and, obviously he was able to, create a big play. But to me, it all goes back and kind of to the Penn game last year when you talk about a similar type of construct, that they were committing so many people to stop Chase with the run. That it opened up, big plays for us in the pass game. And from an analogous standpoint, that it really, kind of went like that, where Chase got close to or over 100 yards against Penn. He didn't have a lot of explosive runs, had a couple big ones. But what it allowed us to do was get our speed and space with our receivers and our quarterbacks and have a big game and a big day in the pass game.
Coach, we often talk about Chase and Kevin as the quarterback and the running backs, but Robbie Cantelli had his best game of the season. He's going to be on our show in a little bit. Can you talk about how important he is in the locker room in terms of, showing the younger wide receivers, how to go about your business, and secondly, how much he's improved just this year.
No, Robbie's improved tremendously throughout his career, and you look at a guy who's a walk-on and has come here and earned everything he's gotten through hard work and perseverance and knowledge of the scheme. And it was good to see all of his like I said, hard work and perseverance rewarded in a career day that he had. You wish he would have been able to break the last tackle on that first long pass, but he does a great job. And I think he also exemplifies, our kind of team philosophy of, everyone doing it together, that, even when Jordan Allen gets in there at the same position and gets a 60-yard touchdown, Robbie's just as apt to coach the younger guys as he is to worry about himself. And I think that's what makes our team great. But I was very, very excited to see Robbie have a big day because he's worked hard to get to this point.
Coach, you score 54 points on offense. The defense allows 31 points, but that number probably a little bit inflated with the way the sequence of the game went, especially in the second half. How would you assess the overall defensive performance against the Hawks on Saturday?
I think we want to keep the points down, certainly below that number. But when you look at the two, to us, critical factors of determining the outcome of games on both sides of the ball, it's turnovers and explosive plays. And for a defense to be able to create 5 turnovers and give us great field position offensively and limit them to 4 explosive plays and 1 really on the long run, and a couple of them happened on the last drive of the game. I thought from that standpoint, and also when we turned the ball over, I think there were 2 instances where
right
the very
back on the next play,
right back. So the only thing I would say defensively, is the point total. But I think outside of that, I thought we played a very good game defensively.
Coach, your linebacking core, to me, stands out on this whole defense. Your defense is very talented, but the 3 of them really seem to be coming into their own, especially Stephen Hodge, of course, being the captain and maybe the heart of this defense. But the 3 of them working together, how important is their success and their chemistry to that whole defense?
Yeah, the identity of a defense is usually dictated by the front 7 and between our 4 starters up front and the guys who rotate through there, and then Steven, Nico, George, and then David Barletta and some of the other guys rolling through there. I'm very excited about those guys. They're obviously all tremendously talented. Nico and Steven, getting over 10 tackles and a bunch of positive plays for the defense, TFL, sacks, interceptions, and then George being the captain and getting in the mix, and even David getting in there. I think we have as good of a linebacking core as we've had around here.
Look to the third phase of the game. Sometimes you and the rest of the coaches say win the game on special teams. That didn't necessarily come into effect this past week, but you lose Mike Mirando and an all-Patriot League place kicker. McKay Red lines up for a 54-yard field goal. He makes it. What went into the decision? Were you confident that he had the leg to get it there?
No, actually the credit to that goes to Coach Slutsky, our special teams coordinator. Where we were with the field position. We were discussing the merits of punting the ball and pinning them down in there versus attempting the field goal, and we did have the win. And McKay came over and said he could make it, and Coach Slutsky felt it was just as advantageous to attempt the field goal as it would be to punt it. And he went in there with great confidence and nailed it. I guess second longest field goal in school history behind Patrick Murray.
Yeah, 1 yard.
And McKay, really the great thing about him is he had a very difficult day in practice. I forget, it was either Wednesday or Thursday, and he didn't lose his confidence. He's kind of like being a pitcher. You give up a home run, you got to just have a short memory, and he's gone out and he did a very good job kicking off as well. So it was good to see him come out and get some confidence, and we're going to need that moving forward.
Yeah, as Drew said, I feel as special teams is one again a huge part of you guys. In terms of just playing the football game, you guys are usually locked down on special teams. Corey Cattle, sure-handed wide receiver, usually doesn't drop the ball. Yeah. Had 2 fumbles on Saturday. What happened with that? Are you worried with him at all? I know you kept him in the game, but the special teams is usually a strong part. What was that problem?
Yeah. The real, one of them it wasn't as much him picking up the first one as the fumble. It was more ball security issue than anything, and on the one. Just didn't field it cleanly. So, Corey's tremendously talented. We think he's a guy that gives us the best opportunity back there, fielding punts to make plays. And, we're going to continue to work with him and, just got to coach him up on, understanding where to align, when to field the ball, and, when he's got to get down. But, to me, the paramount things are ball security, first and foremost, and knowing, when the right time to field the ball is and when, to make a poison call and get away from it and, kind of cut your losses.
Coach, Jack Coffey Field has been an absolute strength of this Fordham football team. You guys are now 19-2 since you've been here. How important, I seem like we seem to ask this question often, but you keep winning at home. What is it about the Jack?
I don't know. We, our kids, I don't know if it's our routine or not changing our routine, but, for whatever reason, our kids have, I feel our the way we have the week set up and our Friday walkthrough, our meetings, and kind of our routine. The kids just like playing at home. There's something special about getting it done on your own campus, and we just done for a reason done a very good job for it.
Coach, last question. Looking back at Monmouth before we take a brief look ahead to Lafayette, the biggest thing that you think you guys need to still clean up heading into this week, what would that be?
Offensively, I'd say protecting the ball, issues. Some of our run fits, getting some things down on the perimeter. But aside from that, I'm going to say it's, practice repetitions. Making sure that we understand that it's game reps during the week. You carry your fundamentals and techniques go from your individual period to group to team, and then team to the game. So that there's some things that we'll clean up, but for the most part, I think the turnovers and some of the things fundamentally will be the biggest things to work on.
All right, so we're going to take a look now to X's and O's coming up with a couple of the assistant coaches for Fordham, Cary, as head coach Joe Moorhead gets back to that preparation for this week's game on Saturday. And Cary, the defense, before we get to those guys, they gave up 31 points, but they forced 5 turnovers, as Coach just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the defense is quickly becoming Fordham's strongest asset. I mean, you look at the front seven combined with what the defensive backs have been doing has just been very impressive. Yes, you look at the score, the final stat line it's pretty high, but at the end of the day, when you look at it, first half, second half, you got to be pretty happy with how they played.
Yeah, you certainly do. And now we're going to get a more exclusive look at that defense as the co-defensive coordinators for Fordham's football team join us, Tim Cary and John Wholley. Guys, thanks for stopping by as we have a couple of sounds coming through here at Applebee's. But thanks so much for stopping by. Glad to be with us here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so guys, I'd like to start with what Cary and I just mentioned, 5 turnovers. I'll toss it to the both of you. You get those 5 turnovers. How important is it to the defense, when you can create those 5 turnovers?
I think that's something that gives the kids a spark and kind of keeps them motivated going through the game and brings some excitement to the field to play. So I think that obviously getting off the field is an important thing and giving back the ball to our offense. But just in terms of from the defensive perspective, I think that our guys feed off of that and feed off of one another getting turnovers and giving the ball back to our offense, and they're always excited about that stuff.
One guy that we haven't always talked about or mentioned is Nico Thorpe. And Steve gets a lot of credit, and so does George, but Nico has had a lot of tackles. He led the team the first 3 weeks, I believe, the first 2 weeks. How important is he to the whole defense?
Well, he's done a phenomenal job, and in any defense, middle linebacker really is from a defensive standpoint, you have to be the quarterback of the defense. You have to take a lot of responsibility to that. And Nico has done a great job from preseason camp, earning a starting position in a competition with David Barletta, and then really excelling. He's the youngest guy in the linebacker core and the least experienced, but he provides a certain energy. He has a natural charisma and a natural leadership to him. And the one thing that is a trademark of what he did, and you don't really know until you see a kid play in a game, is how hard he plays. I mean, he plays as hard as him and Steven are probably, I've been coaching 10 years, play as hard as any 2 kids I've coached, and Nico's done a great job. He's gotten better each game. Army, from the improvement that he's made from preseason camp to Army and then from Army to now is phenomenal, and he definitely provides a spark to our defense and particular linebacking core.
Coach Cary, I'd like to throw this one to you. Caleb Ham unable to play last week. What were the changes that you had to sort of adjust to in the secondary going in this past week?
Well, we were fortunate that we have we have a lot of older guys that have kind of been waiting in the wings, and Marcus Fulmer was a guy that's played corner for us, knows our scheme basically inside and out, and could step in without losing a beat. So to be honest, the changes were more personnel based in terms of what we did. We did the same things, but we moved Marcus over just as a guy that had experience. He had played quite a bit for us this year. Really had shared time as we consider him to be a starter, at corner. And as we moved him to safety, it just gave us, another guy with a lot of game experience going in there. We have some really talented guys behind him, and no discredit to them, but he just has that game experience that's hard to replace.
Coach Wholley, you just talked about Stephen Hodge a couple of minutes ago. I made a heck of, a couple of plays over the weekend. Before I get to the question, let's listen to his interception from the Monmouth game.
Williams is going to throw, looking to his right. Still looking. Scrambling towards the right side of the field. And it's intercepted by Stephen Hodge in the end zone. Fordham stands tall.
So a lot that you won't hear on that highlight was the play that Marcus Fulmore made to chase down the runner who had that ball away at the 5-yard line, and then Stephen Hodge makes the big play. What does that show you about your defense, even at that point, later stages of the game? Maybe it's kind of in your favor already?
It definitely shows that we have character, and it's something that I think that really we need to, maybe one of the keys of the year when you look back at the end of the year as to where we're at, and it really shows that we're starting to develop a killer instinct and an instinct that we're going to always finish no matter what the situation was. During the course of the game, obviously I think it's disappointing that we let up as many points as we did. We were in poor situations, and that was probably the last poor situation that we were in, and we really stepped up and made a huge play, caused a turnover, and we were able to prevent points and lead us into a good situation. I think it's something to build off, and obviously, it just develops. Last year we were very good. I think we're in the top 15 or 20 in the country in the red zone. This year that's something that we want to be. We want to be great in situational football, and obviously in the red zone creating turnovers and stops is what it's got to be.
Coach, we've talked about the secondary. We've talked about the linebacking core. You lost Brett Beestick, DeAndre Slate to graduation. The front four, you rotate 5 in, I believe, have played very well, in my opinion. How have you guys assessed their play?
I think they've played phenomenal. Coach Hall has done a great job with these guys, having so much inexperience. We do have 2 guys that have a lot of experience, necessarily weren't starters, but we basically considered them starters last year in a lot of ways because they played 30 plays plus a game, in Justin Vaughn and Marlon Crook. But, he's done a great job with Manny Adier, Josh Klecko, Tony Fox, even some guys that probably didn't expect to play a lot this year that have really contributed. John Diamond, Kevin Coyne, and Ty Green, Brandon Weir, guys that really have never played before that have came in and done the role, whether it's 5 or 20 plays, have come in and play. I mean, Kevin Coyne is a walk-on freshman that on his first play recovers a fumble and, played about 21 plays, I think, and did a really good job. And I think our D-line we've developed depth there, which is a great thing because you need a lot of D-linemen, and those guys have played very well against the run, been very physical, and I think it's a building stone that we're just starting to get better. I really believe that.
One name you mentioned is Manny Adier. Now, he has one of the biggest personalities on this campus, in my opinion. Everyone kind of knows Manny's
I'm sure in a lot of people's opinions.
How important is to have, Steven's sort of serious, intense, quiet nature combined with Manny? I'm sure there's others, but Manny's, loud, big personality sort of.
Honestly, it definitely helps. I'm sure it helps more in the locker room and just from a social standpoint. I feel like this year, honestly, on the practice field, Manny's been more focused on what Manny needs to do. And now he definitely is joking on the sideline, and he presents a calmness and a fun atmosphere to him. But honestly, he's been very businesslike. Would you say, Coach?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, he's been
his
very
personality definitely helps. I mean, he's a great kid, and we're very fortunate as coaches that we have a lot of great kids. And it's honestly, I told my linebacker core this. I'm excited for these next games because I feel like I really like this group and the way that they're developing.
Speaking with Coach Cary and Coach Wholley, the co-defensive coordinators of Fordham football, here on the 3rd edition of Monday Night Quarterback following the Rams' win over Monmouth 54-31 this past Saturday. Guys, somebody who we didn't mention just yet who had an excellent game, who's going to join us next, is J.Q. Bowers. 2 interceptions for him. Let's listen to one of his interceptions and then follow up with a question.
Coming in motion is ambush, fake reverse. Williams looking down the middle of the field, pocket collapsing. He didn't have it, what he was looking for. Now scrambles right side, and it's intercepted by Fordham on the near side.
So that one is one of 2 of JQ's interceptions. Secondary, you guys lost a lot. The whole team lost a lot. We talked about 30 seniors with Coach Moorhead in the beginning of the season. He said something to me like, yeah, did you have to say the number? But the team has responded maybe even better this season, and the secondary, specifically, the safety position with Caleb out, JQ coming, and having a great game like that, what did that do for the defense?
I think it was huge. You know, obviously, anytime that you're going into a game like that, and Caleb's been a playmaker for us this year so far, you're looking for as many of those, you know, Stephen Hodge, Nico Thorpe, playmaker type guys. And you know, when you have a guy that can step in and grab 2 interceptions, that's a pretty rare thing. And you know, to have a playmaker like that that can turn the tide for us really quickly was huge for our defense. And like I said, it just brings energy to our guys and the rest of the guys, and you know, helps energize not just the defense but the whole team.
Where's the biggest room for improvement on this defense that's played very well up so far?
I don't know if there's a biggest. I think there's just a lot of little things that probably equal big things. I think with Coach Moorhead, it kind of hit it right on the head. I think in the run game, we can be definitely tighter on run fits and more consistent to make sure that, you know, the runs that we tackle for 2 are 0s, the ones that are 5s or 3s, and the ones that are bigger plays, you know, are 10s. The one that breaks for 70 is only a 10 or 15-yard gain because we get it on the ground, and be more consistent in stopping the run. You know,
yeah. I mean, in terms of the pass game, I think, you know, just cleaning up tackling on the perimeter and being more sure tacklers, they're kind of the same thing. You know, a 5-yard play turns into an 8-yard play or a 10-yard, keeping those things 5 yards. And then, you know, just some of our man coverage stuff, just being more aggressive on guys and taking things away kind of that we've become accustomed to here over the past couple of years with some of the guys we had. And we have the guys to do it, so just kind of getting those guys to that next level. And you know, I think those are the things that we're kind of looking for out of this group.
Last question, guys, here on X's and O's on Monday Night Quarterback. If you guys are able to clean up those little things, as you just termed them, how good can this defense be?
I'll take that. I think because I really believe this week could be as good as any defense that's been here. And JQ's right here listening, and I tell this to all these kids, and I'll say it to anybody. I think we could be as good as any defense has ever been at Fordham, at least in the recent history, past 15, 20 years. And I think we're going to. Coming on. I think we're this close from hitting our stride, and what it's going to take is, like Coach, it's one day at a time. Tomorrow when we come to practice, we got to approach it like a game. Wednesday we got to come, we're going to approach it like a game. Thursday we're going to come, approach it like a game. We're going to come out and play our best, which I think will be pretty darn good on Saturday, and we're going to continue to do that 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, and I think this defense is going to be good. And our best defensive games are in front of us, and I really believe that because these guys are growing up. We're developing. We're gelling together as a coaching staff, and we're gelling together with these kids, and I think it's going to come. So be ready.
We will be ready. Coaches, thanks so much, and best of luck against Lafayette, and thanks for coming by tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so that's X's and O's here on Monday Night Quarterback. Corey, we've got one more segment coming up before we give our final thoughts. It's called Inside the Huddle. JQ Bowers, Robbie Cantelli going to get set up in just a moment, but
that's exciting stuff.
That's exciting stuff. You said that you thought the Fordham defense maybe, you know, the most promising part, you know, going forward. The offense is not doing too bad either. They went 550 yards this past week.
No, but it's not surprising that the defense is doing so well, but in the past 3-4 years, the offense has been at the center of attention, especially for all of us. So now seeing the defense playing as well as they are and having, you know, defensive coordinators saying those words is very exciting.
It certainly is really exciting. Now we're going to transition right now to our final segment on Monday Night Quarterback. Inside the Huddle, junior wide receiver Robbie Cantelli, senior defensive back safety JQ Bowers. Stop by here in Applebee's. Guys, thanks so much for stopping by tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
So, guys, a big-time win, 54-31 over Monmouth. You guys improved to 3-1. Robbie, I'm going to start with you because we're going to start from the beginning of the game. And the first drive, you and Kevin had something working, 4 catches. Mm-hmm. What was the chemistry like early on?
You know, the coaches, we prepare all week. They put us in the right spots with their scheme and all the scouting we do, all the film we watch. So I really just had to go out there and kind of run my route. And Kev put the ball on me every play, so it was easy.
The final catch that you made on that drive, I'm sure you would have liked to have gotten into the end zone, but let's take a listen to it, and then I'll follow up with the question.
Sure.
First and 10 for Fordham at their own 46, going right to left. Fake to Edmonds. They fake the screen to Cattle. Looking deep down the middle of the field. Cantelli is wide open at the 20-yard line. Underthrown. Caught at the 15. Trying to be brought down, and Cantelli will be brought down at the 5-yard line. So I'll ask the question. Are you a little upset that you couldn't break that tackle and get in?
Yeah, it would have been nice to get in the end zone, but it's all right because the drive ended with a touchdown anyway, and that's ultimately all that matters as long as we get those points on the board.
JQ, I'll jump to you. How proud have you been with the way this whole defense has performed?
Well, I mean, coming to the season, of course, we lost a lot of seniors. But we did have a ton of guys who haven't started but have played and had experience. And for us, it was all a matter of growing up quickly. And I think we did that pretty well.
and I'll stick with you, JQ. You had 2 interceptions. We heard one before. We'll hear another one in a little bit. But what are some of the things that allowed you to put yourself in such a great position to be successful this weekend?
Really just paying attention to the scheme that our coaches put us in, watching a lot of film, and, knowing sort of tendencies the offense had, and basically playing, based off that.
Robbie, I'll go to you. When you play behind guys like Tabucky Jones, Brian Wetzel, Sam Ajala, how do they prepare you to become the leader of this wide receiving core?
Yeah, well, those guys, they were great, obviously. They broke all the records. But it's the things like off the field that you kind of pick up on, like how much film they watch, the little things they do correctly all the time. And you kind of pick up those same habits and those tendencies. And it's the little things like Coach Moorhead says that manifest themselves on the field. So when you consistently are around guys who do it right, and then you kind of start to do it right, it all just kind of comes together.
JQ, Robbie just said, you learned from the guys before you. Now you're in that senior position. What are some of those things that maybe you took to heart over these first 3 years and were able to, work into your game over the course of the summer and preseason to put yourself when you've had a pretty darn good season so far?
Well, just basically taking everything seriously, from the lifts to the workouts in the summer, just putting the work in day after day after day, and then once it translates to the field, being tight in your assignments, being crisp on every play, attacking the practice field, and basically carrying an energy throughout all aspects of the football.
JQ, I mentioned you had 2 interceptions. We heard the first one. Let's now take a listen to that second interception from the game.
Williams drops back to pass, throws over the middle. It's tipped, and it's intercepted by J.Q. Bowers, second of the game. Crosses midfield, trying to get around a defender, and he's wrapped down at the 42-yard line.
So I'm sure you haven't had a multitude of 2 interception games, but my question regards just a turnover in general. You were a part of 2. You head to the sideline. The sideline goes absolutely nuts. What does that feel like?
Well, it's a great feeling, It's a great feeling not only to get off the field as a defense, but also to get a turnover, especially since I haven't had one since my sophomore year, especially in a game where I had 2. It's just a great feeling to see everybody, energetic and excited, patting you on the back and whatnot. It's awesome.
JQ, I want you to answer this first, then Robbie, follow him up. When I came to Fordham a couple years ago, they said the football team was not that good, blah, blah, blah. And it's past, it hasn't been. Ever since we've been here, it's been excellent. Now, JQ, you've been here for a while. How much have you seen this football team change the culture of this school, and how important is it to your guys' success?
Well, I think it all starts with Coach Moorhead and his mindset to us as a team. We're more of a family than anything, All of our guys stick together, and I think that creates an element in the school to be proud of your football team. Carry enthusiasm in the sports, which rarely ever happen. I think it's just awesome, and it's great that we changed the culture like that.
Yeah, I'm going to play off what JQ said. Coach Moorhead obviously has brought like a different element to the football team and the program. But he said something before last week's game that kind of resonated with me. He said, it just smells like a football day. It's just a great day to be here. People tailgating, it smells like a barbecue, and there's just awesome fan support. So when it starts with him and it trickles down to the team and then to the school, and it just ultimately one big Fordham family that's just excited about football again, it's an awesome feeling.
Guys, we've alluded to it a little bit, and I'll pose this one to both of you as well. Robbie, in your situation as a junior receiver, you're in a huge leadership role because of all the young freshman receivers that are on this team. JQ, as a senior, it goes without saying that you're one of the leaders on this team. How has that leadership role gone for you guys? How have you embraced it so far?
Well, being a senior, yes, of course, you have to, develop a role of leadership. And what I usually do is lead by example, I'm really not a talkative guy on the field. I usually just go out and play as hard as I can, and most of the young guys see me playing through that and want to follow from my example.
Yeah, like we said, we have about 6 or 7 freshman receivers on the squad right now, and I kind of had to, not only me, but along with Tony Patronelli, Jorge Solano, Kevon Brammer, Ben Johnson, we all kind of had to just bring them along quickly and grow up quickly, like Coach Moorhead said. Technically, there's no more freshmen on this team. They've been battle tested. They've been through games, so now it's all about just kind of gelling like we've been doing. And they picked it up quickly. Those guys, they put a lot of time in, the workouts, film study. So they're a good group, and we have to just keep pushing.
When you guys practice and play, and I'll start with you again, JQ, who do you want to resemble the most in terms of you're comparing yourself? I mean, you know we're at different levels, but if there's an NFL player that you kind of want to resemble, is there anyone that stands out in your mind?
Bam Bam Cam Chancellor for the Seahawks. You know, sort of a hard-nosed safety. Come down and hit you, you know, make plays all over the field. That's sort of the guy, you know, I watch closely on Sundays and I look after, and I want to model my game after.
Absolutely understandable. Robbie, how about yourself?
I have to say Antonio Brown, just because, I mean, he's obviously one of the best receivers, if not the best in the league. He makes a lot of plays, but kind of just watching his demeanor, he's kind of just like a next play kind of guy. He'll catch an 80-yard pass and then just be ready for the next play, get lined up. So that's kind of something I like look up to.
All right, last question, guys, here on Inside the Huddle. When your playing days are over, you guys are playing one-on-one basketball. Who wins?
It's not even close.
Not even close, so.
I'll give him a handicap.
All right, it's going to 21. He starts with 10. Do you still beat him?
Yes.
I have to give it to Robbie.
Wow. All right, so it's unanimous.
No, he's a really good basketball player. I'm not that good. I really can't dribble that.
All right, guys, well, thanks so much for stopping by here at Applebee's, and best of luck against Lafayette this Saturday and the rest of the season.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Let's move to coming up next here on Monday Night Quarterback with head coach Joe Moorhead. And Coach, you're playing Lafayette. The biggest difference from the last 3 weeks is the location. You guys are going on the road for the first time in 3 weeks. Do you have any concern with that change? It's kind of an odd to have 3 in a row at home.
Yeah, it's Lafayette's a tough place to play. We haven't won there since 2007 on the road. I mean, that's a statistic we looked up as a coaching staff. And 6 p.m. game, on the road under the lights, against a tough conference opponent who's going to, gain a little confidence. Had lost their first 3, got a nice win against Wagner here this past weekend. So, all the Patriot League games are tough. There's, tremendous parity. If you don't bring your A game every week, you have a chance to get knocked off. And, they're a team that's trying to take something that belongs to us. We're the defending champions, and I'm sure they're going to be motivated, based off of last year's game, just like we were motivated, based off of the 2013 game. So, it'll be a tremendous challenge.
Looking back on the Villanova loss, is that something you used to motivate your team in the Patriot League games? Although Villanova isn't a Patriot League team, just a loss in terms of using that motivation. I know you said last week competing against our standard, but is the Patriot League sort of the motivation you find?
Yeah, we put the Villanova game in our rearview mirror. But the kids do understand. We talk about singleness of purpose and, going one at a time, but they do understand that the road to the FCS playoffs is through the Patriot League championship. So we told them every journey begins with a single step, and the first step in our journey to the Patriot League championship is our game versus, Lafayette. So we'll be very myopic in that sense, and we're not worried about anything except what we do on a daily basis, and understand that we need to be on point. 6 times out of 6 in these Patriot League games, and it'll start this Saturday down in Easton.
Coach, you speak daily about one day at a time, one at a time. That's one of the philosophies that you guys have this season. But we've got to ask, picked to win the Patriot League, starting the Patriot League schedule this season, is there any added pressure to those 6 Patriot League games?
We're a team that applies pressure. We don't feel pressure. And, we're not going to let an expectation level, a poll, or an opponent dictate how we operate. We have a standard that we operate at, and a culture that we're responsible to perform, to fulfill. And to us, I don't want to say it's just another game, but it's the game we have this week, and we understand it's the most important one on our schedule because it's the next one that we play.
When looking at Lafayette this week, what's your biggest challenge in continuing this win streak?
Offensively, speaking from an offensive standpoint, they have a big, strong, physical defensive line, linebackers that run very well. Jared Roberts and Matt Smalley were both preseason All-Patriot League picks on the back end. They're very good players there. From a defensive perspective, obviously Drew Reed threw 5 touchdown passes last week, and we've seen him the past 2 years. He could do some special things. They have a stable of young receivers. The Chenoweth kid, I believe, had over 100 yards last week. And they've kind of been running back by committee. They've had some injuries, and they've always, a trademark of Lafayette's a big, strong, physical offensive line who prides themselves on running the ball. So those will be things we need to be aware of on both sides of the ball.
Coach, last question. You just mentioned some of Lafayette's maybe strengths or things that they like to do. You like to control the things that you guys can control. Yep. What are some of the things that you look to maybe initially, only on Monday before the game on Saturday, but some of the things you're going to look to try and do against Lafayette?
Yeah, we're still really in the preliminary stages of getting our game plan together, working on first and second down today. But I know the two things that we can't control are our attitude and our effort, outside of scheme. So we'll be, piecing the rest of the game plan together through tonight and tomorrow. But I do know this: we come out with a great attitude and we play with great effort. Great things are possible.
Coach, thanks so much. Best of luck on Saturday, and we will see you throughout the week, and then on Saturday at 6 o'clock in Easton, PA.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Corey, so that's pretty much it here on the third episode of Monday Night Quarterback here at Applebee's. Before we wrap up, let's final thoughts from the Monmouth game.
Yeah, it was a fun game. Our first broadcast together, the team really, its first dominating win of the season, I'd say. They looked good, really, in all facets of the game. We talk about it. Right now, the defense is playing exceptional. The offense, led by Kevin Anderson, is playing great. Chase Edmonds is doing his thing. And you know what? The special teams for the two blunders that Corey Cattle had, we'll forget about it, is maybe the best in the Patriot League, if not the FCS, with Joe Pavlik and McKay Red. So a lot of good things to look forward to, Drew.
Just something to note, Fordham improves to now 13th in the coaches poll, 15th in the Stats Top 25 poll. Those rankings came out earlier today. McKay Red, the special teams player of the week in the Patriot League, as is Kevin Anderson, and of course offensively for his 5-touchdown, 300-plus yard performance. And I'm going to agree with you, Corey. Fordham played well. They played to their standard, a dominating win that we talked about, that the Rams really, not that they needed one, but it would be a huge boost to their team and everything going forward, and they get it against Monmouth. They came out with great intensity. The defense quickly got the momentum back for the offense when the offense had their 4 turnovers. And, it was a great win. I'm looking forward to Lafayette on Saturday, but they go on the road.
Yeah, exactly. First road game in a while. But the first one went really well against Army. You look back at the schedule, and we said it in the broadcast, Fordham's 2 most challenging games were the first 2 games. If you look at the rest of their schedule, they don't play a team that's as good as Villanova with John Robertson. They don't play a team that's as good as Army, potentially. I mean, if you look at it on paper. So Fordham's in a very good spot right now. First Patriot League game coming up this week. I think right now, like you said, coming off the dominating win, they're in a good spot. It's going to be a good, strong end of the season. I don't see Fordham wavering at all.
Well, they'll look to continue to compete against their standard as Patriot League play starts on Saturday. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Monday Night Quarterback here at Applebee's. Thanks to head coach Joe Moorhead, co-defensive coordinators John Wholley and Tim Cary, defensive back J.Q. Bowers, and wide receiver Robbie Cantelli. We'll be back at Applebee's for next Monday's edition, another edition of Monday Night Quarterback. A look back at the Lafayette game and a look ahead to the University of Pennsylvania. UPenn actually just defeated Villanova this past week. We'll have our X's and O's segment with one of the coaches and Inside the Huddle with some of our players. Until those times, for Corey Miller, producer Brendan Bowers, and engineer Sean Hayner, this is Drew Casey. Have a good week, everybody. Monday Night Quarterback is a presentation of WFUV Sports. And remember, join us this Saturday as the Rams take on Lafayette in Easton, Pennsylvania for the first Patriot League matchup of the season. Kickoff slated for 6 p.m. We'll be on with the one-on-one pregame report at 5:50 p.m. on WFUV 90.7 FM and WFUVSports.org. Enjoy the week, everyone.